Weekend of Saturday, October 21st and Sunday, October 22nd, 2017. You are listening to Inception Radio Network, voice of the fringe majority. This is Carol Carl with Off the Beaten Path. Yes, Off the Beaten Path, where we sort of step outside the box that we have for the UFO headline news during the week. But let's start with that old familiar, the sky up over our heads tonight. Here's the headline, Young Moon Returns to Evening Sky. This is from, of course, earthsky.org. In the days following new moon, a young moon, a waxing crescent, always appears in the west shortly after sunset. The moon has returned to the evening sky now, and you're likely to see this little moon this weekend or in the coming week. Some people think a moon visible in the west after sunset is a rising moon, but it's not. It's a setting moon. All objects in our sky rise in the east and set in the west due to Earth's spin under the sky. When you see that waxing crescent, you know the Earth, Moon, and Sun are located nearly on a line in space. If they were more precisely on that line, as they are at new moon, we just wouldn't see the moon at all. If you look shortly after sunset on October 21st, you might see the moon low in the west above the sunset point. In the days ahead, that old moon will be waxing, appearing higher in the sky each evening after sunset, passing the bright red star Antares, located in the constellation Scorpius, and the golden planet Saturn. Note also, the crescent moon has nothing to do with Earth's shadow on the moon. The only time Earth's shadow can fall on the moon is at full moon and during a lunar eclipse. There is a shadow on the crescent moon, but it's the moon's own shadow. Night on the moon happens on the part of the moon that's submerged in its own shadow. Likewise, night on Earth happens on the part of Earth submerged in Earth's own shadow. It goes like this. Because the waxing crescent moon is nearly on a line with the Earth and Sun, its illuminated hemisphere, its day side, is facing mostly away from us. We only see a slender fraction of the day side, a crescent moon. Each evening, because the moon is moving eastward in orbit around the Earth, the moon appears farther from the sunset glare. It's moving farther from the Earth-Sun line in space. Each evening, as the moon's orbital motion carries it farther from the Earth-Sun line, we see more of the moon's day side. Thus, the crescent in the west after sunset appears to wax or grow fatter every evening. That pale glow on the darkened portion, the night side of a crescent moon, it's that thing called earth shine. It's caused by light reflected from Earth's day side onto the moon. After all, when you see a crescent moon in Earth's sky, any moon people looking back at our world would see a nearly full Earth. How cool. So here's that good old bottom line. Watch for the young moon to return to the evening sky. Oh, don't forget, the Draconid meteor shower might be peaking this weekend. Take a look. Oh, that's a perfect segue, because somebody took a look at Google Earth. David Kennedy of the University of Western Australia. And here's the headline, written by Rob Woe for Yahoo News. Archaeologists spots hundreds of mysterious ancient stone gates using Google Earth. Archaeologists have spotted hundreds of mysterious, seemingly ancient, man-made structures in the sands of Saudi Arabia, seen via Google Earth. The archaeologists came across these structures in a region of the country called Harat Khaybar. We'll spell that Harrat, second word, Khaybar. Some of these are 4 times the length of a football pitch, as they say in Europe, field here in the United States, and experts have suggested that they may be up to 7,000 years old. The archaeologists are referring to them as gates because of the resemblance they bear to garden gates when viewed from above, but their purpose and their age remains unknown. Here's what David Kennedy of the University of Western Australia wrote, and he wrote this to Live Science. He said, the gates, quote, appear to be the oldest man-made structures in the landscape. Gates are found almost exclusively in bleak, inhospitable lava fields, with scant water or vegetation, places seemingly amongst the most unwelcoming to our species, end quotes. Some of these gates are sufficiently old that the lava flow appears to go over them. These gates are up to 1,700 feet long, writes David Kennedy. He says he spotted hundreds of archaeological sites in the area, mainly using Google Earth imagery. And that seems to make a lot of sense, as it's difficult for researchers to access these sites on the ground. We're sure this is just the first of the information that will come out about these, and we will make sure to keep you in the loop. Or perhaps in this case, we should say inside those gates. Gates and doors. It looks as though we have a new doorway into the science of what happens when we die. From MSN.com, here's the headline: "When you die, you know you're dead because your brain still works, and you could even hear your death announced." There isn't any byline here, but here's the content of the article. When you die, you know you're dead because the brain keeps functioning, and you know what's happening around you. This is according to chilling new research. Medical experts have long debated what happens when a person dies, with anecdotal evidence of bright lights or sensations, and those films such as Flatliners that explore the unknown. But a new study suggests a person's consciousness keeps working after their heart stops beating and their body movements fail. Cardiac arrest survivors were aware of what was going on around them while they were dead, including seeing doctors trying to save them or hearing conversations before they were brought back to life, according to this study. It means that a person may even hear their time of death being announced by medics, as they're essentially trapped inside their body with brain function continuing. Dr. Sam Parnia, he spells that Parnia, is studying consciousness after death, and he's examined cardiac arrest cases in Europe and the United States. Dr. Sam Parnia said anecdotal evidence has found that people in the first phase of death may still experience some form of consciousness, citing many accurately described situations where the patient knew what was happening around them after their hearts stopped beating. He said, quote, "They'll describe watching doctors and nurses working. They'll describe having awareness of full conversations, of visual things that were going on around them, things that otherwise could not be known to them," end quotes. Dr. Parnia of the New York University Langone School of Medicine in New York said the accounts were verified by doctors and nurses who were left stunned after learning that the patients remembered those details after being resuscitated. His study is examining what happens to the brain after a person goes into cardiac arrest, and whether consciousness continues after death and for how long. He wants to improve the quality of resuscitation and prevent brain injuries while restarting the heart. Unlike the plot in the film Flatliners, however, when a person is resuscitated, they don't return with, quote, magical enhancements, end quotes, of their memories, said Dr. Parnia. Fascinating substantiation of a sort for those of us who believe that it doesn't just cut to black. Here's more on that Chicago Phantom mystery. It seems that, according to Lon Strickler and his excellent site phantomsandmonsters.com, Pulse of the Paranormal, that man-bat Chicago winged thing also has been seen in central Indiana, not too far away. Let's check this out. Here's the headline: "Large winged being perched on radio tower." Oh my. Well, who doesn't just love radio? Here's the first-person account sent recently to Lon Strickler. It begins, "Hi, Lon. Well, I've debated about reporting this for a couple of months since I first learned about you and the Chicago sightings. I heard about them on a show called Higher Side Chats. That show was a big aha moment for me. My own sighting occurred actually about a year ago in central Indiana. It happened during the late summer, early fall. It was between 5 and 6 p.m. I'm sorry if I'm light on specifics. This experience was so surreal to me that it just didn't document well in my mind. Here's how it happened. I was driving on a highly populated suburban area outside of Indianapolis. I came to a stoplight at a busy intersection. That was when I saw something large, black and winged. It was perched atop a nearby radio tower. Initially, I saw this in my peripheral vision. That radio tower was about a quarter of a mile or less from the intersection. I glanced over fully, and of course it was gone. I couldn't explain it, but I had a very strong impression that I had just glimpsed a being from another dimension, interacting with my dimension. I fully believed that what I saw from the corner of my eye was there in that moment, and then gone the next. Thank you for all your research on this subject. I'm glad to know I'm not alone. Signed, I.H. Fascinating account, which leads us right into this account, also from phantomsandmonsters.com. Headline, White Bird-like Humanoid Accosts Rural South Dakota Witnesses. This happened in 2014. Whether or not it's related to the Chicago phantom bat squatch owl thing flying around or the thing seen in Indiana, we just don't know. But here's the account. It's a wild one. This happened on June 9th to a friend and I in rural South Dakota. It was a clear night, kind of boring. We'd been visiting friends here and there all evening, just going around visiting. Usually we'd be sipping a beer by the time evening came, but for whatever reason that day we decided to skip the beer. We were just cruising, listening to music. It started getting late, and everywhere we went people were drinking. Sad, but just another night in South Dakota. So after wasting gas all night, we decided to go check out some other people we knew. By the time we pulled up, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, but everybody was hanging out outside in the front yard, passing a bit of liquor around. We just sat and visited. I think both of us took just one shot of liquor. We decided then to head out, 'cause it was getting late. I was getting tired and I wanted to go home. So we said laters, jumped in the car. Now, the place we'd been visiting was down the street, almost the last house on a one-way street, houses on each side. There were a few driveways before the stop sign, where you'd enter the street. There were 2 or 3 lots that were vacant on the right side, just open field with rows of trees farther back. Well, now we're driving about 15 miles per hour, if not less. We're trying to find a song to listen to, and both of us aren't paying attention to the road, really. Then I look up, and I see what looks like a dog or some kind of animal beside the road by one of these empty drives. It looked like it was eating. It was kind of hunched over, but no bigger than a dog. And then the closer we got to this thing, it turns its head back toward us, and we can see it in the headlights. But while it's turning around, it's also starting to stand up, like a person, but not a person. By the time we pull right up alongside its body, it hits the right side of the car. Now, this is all happening in a matter of seconds, and it isn't anything I've ever seen before. This thing was like a cross between a man and a bird. It was white, with all these weird feathers or something on its body, and it had long fingers, like 8 or 9 inches long. I remember the fingers because it reached in the window while we slowed down. It had some kind of weird things sticking out of its head, like horns or something. At the same time, we're freaking out, and my friend is saying, "Go, go, go!" And this thing's got its arms out to the side, and all these things, these fringes, are hanging off its arms, moving all over its body. And these things made a noise. The noise was like when a porcupine shakes its quills. And then it screams, the ugliest scream or holler. It was so loud. I slammed on the gas, and we were just trying to get the hell out of there. I ran the next 2 stop signs, freaking out. I didn't stop till I got farther back into town. So anyway, we did stop. I'm still freaking out. I was sitting there crying, trying to figure out what the hell we saw. So we ended up staying up all night, sitting in the car in the driveway of a family member, trying to figure it all out. We were scared to move. In the meantime, I called the people whose house I just came from, because they were all outside, only 4 houses down the street from where this happened, thinking they had to have seen us slow down and stop. They had to have heard that thing scream. But when I talked to them, nobody heard a thing. They said they just saw us leave, and that was it. I don't know what it was, but I had nightmares for a year or so almost every night. And yeah, I admit I'm still looking for things that might be similar, listening to stories, trying to find anything that could give me some explanation. Signed, CWB. And there's a note at the end of this account, a note from Ron Strickler, who writes, I believe this incident occurred on one of the Sioux reservations in South Dakota. As far as this being resembling an indigenous spiritual entity or a legendary creature, I really have no idea. Signed, Lon. We perhaps should be looking for a Cryptid of the Year award show. This is a new one, whether or not it's connected to the Chicago Phantom, to any of the other strangeness in that area. It's interesting, the man part and the wing part, that's a connect. We can't leave the crazy collection of critters without covering this story breaking in the Fresno area of California. Headline, Bigfoot reportedly sighted. Pictures go viral. Oh, yes, indeed, they did. We gathered this story from FoxNews.com. They actually had video for their nightly broadcast. They covered this story, and we did not find a snicker factor. So, kudos. Let's read. The legendary Bigfoot and other creatures like it have reportedly been spotted near a Northern California lake. This is according to a paranormal investigator. You might recognize this name, gentle listeners. Jeffrey Gonzalez, a self-described paranormal expert, said he heard about the sighting from a local farmer who said he saw this creature and 5 others running on his ranch near Avocado Lake. Quote, one of them, which was extremely tall, had a pig over its shoulder, end quotes. That's what Gonzalez said in comments obtained by Fox 26. He continued, quote, as the 5 scattered and the one with the pig was running, he was running so fast he didn't see an irrigation pipe. He tripped. The pig went flying over, end quotes. You might know Gonzalez. He's a talk show host and an investigator at Paranormal Central. He also founded the Sanger, California Paranormal Society. His day job? He's a tech at AT&T. Jeffrey Gonzalez said the sighting is not that uncommon, with 3 additional Bigfoot sightings in the past 5 years, all located in East Fresno County. They must be after the raisins. Here's a quote from Jeff Gonzalez, quote, I would never have guessed in a million years if you told me there were Bigfoot on Shields or Ashland Avenues in Fresno, right? So I want to know what's going on. Is this for real? End quotes. Jeffrey Gonzalez recounted 2 other stories, including one from a woman who said her 2 sons saw a Bigfoot in their orchard, and another story from a man who saw 5 creatures in the same orchard. Quote, what are the odds of 3 people, 3 different families who don't know each other, within a radius of 2 to 3 miles? They come and tell me what they witness, and it matches up, end quotes. There's video footage, an interview with the farmer who saw the 5 Bigfoot together. We just found him to be so credible. There is video footage also included with this, other footage, a link to the iconic Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot film from the 1960s. In that footage, Roger Patterson and his partner Robert Gimlin shot a short motion picture, and the filmmakers have said it was Bigfoot. Experts have bandied about the facts of this for years, whether the footage was real or fake, although Roger Patterson maintained it was real until his death in 1972. That's fascinating footage. Looks so very believable, something about the way the muscles move. Check it out. You can find it later at ufoheadlinenews.com. Here's an interesting headline we found at the beginning of this week. In case you missed it, here we go. It's out of Florida. Headline, a Miami congressional candidate talks about her encounters with extraterrestrials. Yep, you heard that correctly. Her encounters with extraterrestrials. We picked this story up from the MiamiHerald.com, who picked it up from the McClatchy newsfeed. It carries a byline for Alex Doherty and Patricia Mazzei. Washington. Florida has a United States senator who once flew aboard the space shuttle. A congressional candidate from Miami can go one better. Bettina Rodriguez-Aguilera says she's been aboard a spaceship too, but this one was crewed by aliens. Yep, as in extraterrestrials. 3 blonde, big-bodied beings, 2 females, 1 male, visited her when she was 7 years old and have communicated telepathically with her several times in her life, she says. Bettina Rodriguez Aguilera is 59. She's a Republican who's running to replace retiring Miami Republican Representative Ileana Ros-Leitman, and she recounted her experiences with the ETs during a television interview that took place back in 2009. She described, quote, going up, end quotes, inside the spaceship, though whether it went into space or just hovered around town was left unclear. Quote, I went in. There were some round seats that were there and some quartz rocks that controlled the ship. Not like airplanes, end quotes, she said. In 2 separate videos posted to YouTube years ago, one by local Spanish-language station America TV and another by a political critic with the username DoralGirl26, Rodriguez Aguilera spoke on television in detail about those extraterrestrial experiences. She said the alien beings reminded her of that famous statue in Rio de Janeiro, Christ the Redeemer, with arms outstretched. Among the things she said she found out from the aliens, there are 30,000 skulls, quote, different from humans, end quotes, in a cave in the Mediterranean island of Malta. Thing 2, the world's energy center is in Africa. Thing 3 we find most intriguing, the Coral Castle, that limestone tourist attraction in South Miami-Dade. It's actually an ancient Egyptian pyramid. We find that's going to be a hard sell for the fans of Edward Leedskalnin, who purportedly built it with his own hands and by himself. And here's this last thing. We love it. God is a universal energy. Bettina Rodriguez Aguilera also said that the aliens had mentioned ISIS, although she didn't clarify whether they meant the terrorist organization or the ancient Egyptian goddess, who owns that name as far as we're concerned. So if you're registered to vote in the state of Florida and this calls to you, get out there and cast your vote for Bettina Rodriguez Aguilera. Definitely off the beaten path here. Last week we talked about that giant robot battle coming up. Well, here's the follow-up headline. Giant robot battles are here, and they are hilariously bad. Subheadline, this is what $2.4 million gets you, apparently. David Grossman wrote this for Popular Mechanics. For 2 years now, the fighting robot league known as Megabots has been raising money and hype in support of its vision of giant mechas from the United States and Japan battling each other. The first fights have happened, and they were ludicrously disappointing. The first ever Megabots fight lasted under 30 seconds, with a very easy knockout by the Japanese robot Karatas. While no doubt a lot of work went into the building of these robots, watching one knock the other over very easily in less than a minute makes the entire thing seem comical. The continually awe-struck announcers, operating on hype levels known only to wrestling commentators, did their best to dredge something out of nothing. The second fight lasted longer, but it quickly fell into stasis as the robots got stuck to each other. Apparently, the entire endeavor took several days to film, given the complications of fighting with giant robots. After they dislodge from each other and begin again, something approaching what must have been the original vision for Megabots starts to take place. Chainsaws are activated, giant metal pylons are ripped up, but there never seems to be much authentic drama. Essentially, a big robot defeats a smaller robot. BattleBots was able to be relatively successful because it was able to draw actual tension sometimes out of its robots. It was an older show, and it was just fun to see them destroy each other. Megabots has a long road to climb before it hits that similar mark. And yes, there will be links to the video of that gigantic, amazing conflict. You can find it later at ufoheadlinenews.com. But remember, it was called hilariously bad. Here's a UFO sighting, yikes, from Oxford, Mississippi. MUFON gave it a case number 87219. This sighting took place on October 8th, 2017. It got a same-day report. Here's what our witness offers in summary. Red, green, white, yellow, flashing lights hovering over trees for 40 minutes or so. Under the categories that include sighting specifics, our witness lists the viewing distance of over 1 mile and ultimately unknown. The altitude, treetop. Sighting duration here, 45 minutes. The object features are unknown. The flight path was hovering and then path. And uniquely, this object is said to have been shaped like an egg. Not too many of those. Sticking with the egg metaphor for the meteorology, well, nothing was hatching over Oxford, Mississippi at the time of this event, so let's just hear the event. I was sitting outside my house, enjoying the evening. It was around 8:30 p.m. I noticed something. It was flashing quickly. I saw it out of the side of my eye, and at first I thought it was a planet. I did think it was strange that the flashing red was flashing so quickly. Especially on a clear night, there were no clouds in the area, and these colors were flashing in a circle, an egg shape. So I grabbed some binoculars to see this up close, and the lights were red, green, white, and yellow. They were flashing very quickly in what seemed to be a random sequence. This object was small, which is why I thought it was a planet. I then thought this could be a plane, but this object stayed in one spot, hovering over the trees for over 45 minutes, not going anywhere at all. It wasn't getting larger or smaller. So I put my binoculars down, thinking perhaps what I was seeing was a cell phone tower, but I was still skeptical. And after 45 minutes, this object dropped behind the trees. I couldn't find it. If it were a plane, I feel like it wouldn't have disappeared so quickly behind the trees. It would have been a long process. I had just looked away for no longer than 10 seconds, and this object was gone. Gone. That's what we're about to be. All the clocks on the wall, all the time zones indicate we gotta roll because that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Inception Radio Network, Off the Beaten Path. Follow this broadcast at UFOheadlinenews.com. Take care of each other. We're all in this together. This is Carol Carl. See you tomorrow.